Baada ya kumalizwa kwa mbunge wa Kasipul, we come back to history for the first ever slain MP in Kenya, aliyejulikana kama Pio Gama Pinto. Born in Nairobi on 31st March 1927 in a Catholic family of Goan Catholic. Now, wacha niwachanue kidogo about the Goan Catholic. In this church, St. Francis Xavier, who was a missionary baptizing tens of thousands in India and Japan, continued to give Christ his life after death, where his right arm is kept in Italy, his toe in India, after being beaten by an overzealous pilgrim, but his nearly whole body is the biggest relic still stored in the western state of Goa. Now, back to the story. Pio Gama's parents were immigrants hailing from Portuguese in Goa, his father working as an official in the Kenyan government while the mother was a housewife. At the age of 8, he was sent to Goa for education for 9 years, passing his matriculation exams at St. Joseph High. Hii ni nini? Matriculation exams ni entrance examination you take at the end of secondary ndo upate admission to higher education. For instance, class 8 take KCPE to gain admission to high school, and Form 4's KCSE to gain admission to universities. Yeah, I know the module has changed. That's why I said it's just an example. He later then moved to Bombay Presidency, studying science in Karnataka University. Karnataka College for 2 years, later joining the Indian Air Force as an apprentice ground engineer. Thereafter, taking up a job in the Post and Telegraph Office in Bombay, participating in the general strike, becoming the founding member of GNC, Goa National Congress, which main aim was to the liberation of Goa from Portuguese rule at only 17. Just imagine at the age of 17 doing all this. Now, this political activism made it necessary for him to return to Kenya to avoid being arrested and deported to Tafaral concentration camp in Cape Verde. Now, guess you are curious to know Tafaral concentration camp. What is it? Hii camp ilikuwa established and built na Portuguese dictator Antonio de Oliveira Salazar. Damn, jina ni ngumu. Na built in 1933, housing political prisoners and African rebelling against colonial rule. Now, in 1949, he returned to Kenya, taking up clerical jobs, later joining politics, aiming to overthrow the British colonial rule in Kenya. In 1951, he co-founded EAIC, East African Indian Congress, mainly dedicated to bring independence to South Asian communities in Kenya. He also joined the journalism in Kenya, writing Colonial Times, Daily Chronicles, and the Uzword. From 1952, he was the contributor to the international services of All India Radio, where he produced a popular anti-colonial program named the Goan Newsletter, also collaborating with the British anti-colonial activists such as Independent Labour MP Fena Brockway, informing the world of political developments in Kenya. However, this brought him on the radar of the colonial authorities in Kenya. 5 months after his wedding in 1954, he was wounded in a notorious Operation Anvil. Oh my God. Have you heard of this operation? It was so barbaric, guys. This operation was very cruel. You were interrogated, beaten up, and tortured so that they could make you reveal everything they wanna know. Just go look at the historical records of this, and I think you won't like it. Yeah, let's go back to the story. After all that, he spent next 4 years in detention in Manda Island, later kept in confinement from 1958 to October 1959 at Carbonet. But guess what guys, just after kutoka au kuachiliwa in 1960, he founded the KANU, Kenya African National Union newspaper, Sauti ya KANU, and later Pan-African Press, becoming its director and secretary. He also formed Kenyan Freedom Party, a multiracial organization, but later dissolved it when KANU allowed non-Africans to join its ranks. In 1961, he was the key figure in campaigning for KANU during elections. And in 1962, he turned his attention to Mozambique. Guys, this guy was really a superhero. He just wanted to also help Mozambique gain its independence. I think the blood in him was different. Where in Mozambique, which was still under Portuguese colonial rule, working closely with Frelimo. In 1963, he was elected as a member of Central Legislative Assembly, and later in 1964, he was specially elected a member of the House of Representatives, working to establish the Lumumba Institute to train KANU officials in 1964. Oh my God. Now, the assassination on the 24th February 1965. Pio Gama dropped his wife at work, drove back home on his wife's submotor vehicle, car number KHW 363, had breakfast, pick up his 18-month-old baby, akamweka at the back seat, then drove the car to the main gate, not knowing this was the final moment he had to spend with his daughter and the wife, or even maybe having breakfast or hear someone say jambo, because it was claimed that the murderer first greeted before raining fire on the driver's seat of the car, Pinto slamming on the steering, lifeless, with the cold gun sounds being what he had last, confused, feeling betrayed, but life was leaving him faster, finally giving in, and we lost a international freedom fighter who gave up his all for our freedom only, not to enjoy it. Kisilu Mutua, the Alain suspect, was arrested but claimed he was used as a scapegoat, for he didn't even know who Pio Gama was. Hata guys, ukirudi kwa records utapata he used to say that he never read newspapers, never listened to radio, because what was the use? Objective yake main ilikuwa his family wamekula. Is he okay? Does he have clothes to wear? Is he financially okay? So he never found anything interesting in the radios or newspapers, or had time for it, because his schedule will never allow it. Anaamka asubuhi kwa mkokoteni, ako soko, amechukua stock, amerudi, anatafuta watu wa kuuzia. Yeah, arrested at the age of 21 in 2017, he was awarded 2.7 million by the High Court after finding he had been tortured while in police custody to sign a document that was used as evidence to implicate him in the murder. In 2001, he was granted presidential pardon by the then President Moi. The government even gave him land in Nairobi Eastlight. But what was the use? He lived in poverty, guys. There was also another claim, such as after the 2 years, they relocated to Ottawa, Canada, with the help of President Moi. Now, That is the story of Pio Gama Pinto, the first ever martyred member of parliament in the Kenyan history.